Hey everybody, how are we all doing today? Thumbs up from everybody. All right, good deal. So today we've got Bill's gonna play, and I've got Rasa on. Cool, pumped, and then Brandon's gonna play a little. So should be pretty fun. Just a couple of things. Next week we're gonna meet. I've got Jude who wanted to play something. Jude's in the UL studio, and he's been working on some stuff, getting ready for a recital in October, bass trombone recital. So he's going to play next week, and I might actually let him play a couple of things just to kind of get some practice performing in front of everybody. If anybody else has a burning desire to perform next week, that'd be fine. I'm sure we could fit you on. I also wanted to go over a couple of little useful tools that some of you know about and some of you don't when it comes to kind of building some tone and some strength on the horn. So that'll kind of get worked in as well, depending on how much time we have and who all wants to play. So that's kind of the big stuff, I think, for now. Um, Big trombone news in the world this week. The New York Phil has shut down their season, their 2020-21 season. So that's a bummer for those of us who are hoping to get out to New York. But that's kind of the way things are going. So probably more of these Zoom types of things. I think generally that's probably going to be really good for all of us because it means that all of the trombone players out in New York are going to want to do stuff and they're going to keep providing free seminars and stuff. So I'll try to pass that information along when I see it come by. I know Jim Markey's been doing a bunch of stuff, and actually Joe Alessi's been offering lessons for like $50, which is crazy. So if you're into that and you want to take a lesson with Joe Alessi, go for it. Cool. Well, we'll get going here. Bill, why don't we do a quick sound check and we'll have you go first if that's okay.
Okay, let me just switch cameras also. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that'll work. That's
Okay. So I've got A minor by Rosari, which is the Voxman book, page 20, that I'm queuing up.
cool. Sounds good. We're excited for that. Why don't you just so everybody's kind of got your background, Bill? Tell us about when you started playing the trombone, and then like when you came back to playing the trombone.
Okay, so I started playing trombone when I was in fourth grade, and I played through high school. And then I went to a college that didn't have a band, and I missed playing. They did have a basketball band, and I did that like 1 year. And then I went on an academic exchange and auditioned for the LSU band and actually made it. So I was in the LSU band while I was in graduate school. And then after that, I didn't entirely put the horn away, but I didn't really play too much. And then I have a daughter who also plays trombone. And so when she started, doing more like honor band stuff, and I got a chance to see some of the music, it was interesting. And then she attended a camp at the University of Illinois with a professor that Benjamin studied under, and they had a news clipping on the board up there at the music school that said that Dr. Yates was going to the University of Louisiana in Lafayette. And I said, well, wait a second, that's where I lived, So my daughter was too busy with homework to take lessons, but I decided, well, maybe I could fit a few in. So I've been playing much more seriously, and I hadn't taken private lessons previously. So it's been an entirely different style of music than the mostly 100% marching band stuff that I played previously. So
Yeah,
it's been fun.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So why don't you play? Just blow a couple notes since I made you talk, and then when you're ready.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Good job. Sounds good, Bill. So we've been working on this. Oh, I don't know, not super long. Basically, since we kind of got back together this spring, and I think there's some like really good things going on here. Those big leaps, those octave leaps, and the sevenths and sixths are sounding really really good. They're in tune, and you're hitting them. I think that's a huge improvement. All of those descending lines, yada da da dee da dee da dum, boom, beam, boom, those are getting much lighter and like staying in time. So I think that's a huge improvement. Generally speaking, just the musicality that you're coming up with, especially that middle section. I can't remember what it's labeled as, but it's a more like
Mano section, I guess.
yeah, the Mano, yeah. It's that legato stuff is really coming through really nicely as a very different style. So in terms of the contrast, I also think that's a huge leap forward. It's really sounding good. Congrats on your first time playing in studio class here on Zoom. It's a big deal too. You did it.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I think the only time I've ever gotten called out to like play individually in the past was maybe for a aggravated section leader, and
So this was a good one. Yeah, this was positive. So congrats. Um, let's see. I meant to share this with everybody beforehand, but just a quick reminder, kind of some of the things that we're doing for our comments, just so that we all kind of remember what we're going for here. Is as always, we're trying to kind of bookend our comments, so say something positive, say something that maybe can be worked on or improved, with some ways of doing that. You don't ever want to just say, "Oh, you need to work on your tone." That's an empty comment, right? We want to be able to say, "Oh, you might want to consider working on your tone, and here's a couple of ways that I've worked on my tone." So that's something to be thinking about. As always, you can provide comments via the Google form if you want to. But really, we're kind of looking for comments specifically on tone, technique, articulation, musicality, preparation, professionalism, that sort of thing. So, sorry, I meant to mention that earlier. So, does anybody have any comments for Bill on how it went today? Brandon?
Sure. I like the contrast from like the opening section, and then you made it into the like the second part of the piece, and then back to the opening. Those were really distinct changes in the piece, and I like that a lot from it. Something to work on, I guess, could be those runs, getting them a little bit smoother with your slide technique. I feel like you're kind of like, instead of like stopping at each position on the way down the slide, you're kind of like a weird. It's kind of hard to like even describe it over Zoom without seeing it in person. But it's kind of like some like weird like jerky movements when you're going down the slide towards like the on the runs like da 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 on the those runs. But other than that, I mean, everything sounds fine to me.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment. That's good, Brandon. I noticed that too. There seemed to be kind of some um, like the slide didn't necessarily just go to the position for those descending runs. And I wasn't sure what exactly that might be, but maybe that's something that we should take a look at in your lesson next week, just to just to look and see if we can't figure out what that was. I'm not sure I've seen that before, so might have been nerves.
Yeah, I think it's nerves, and it might be, some of my, sometimes, there's like, I can play them and, for example, the E, I can drop that down into seventh or go back, to second position. And I think I have played it both ways and probably got confused halfway through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's always that factor of, wait, which one am I going to do this time? Yeah, yeah, I get that too. Good comment, Brandon. Appreciate that. Charlie or Rasa, you guys got a comment for Bill? Nothing? Charlie, you got something? What do you got? Let me unmute you here. There you go.
I have to say, I liked his articulation and the way he definitely like thumped on the notes, and it sounded very in time.
Yeah. That's a good comment. Anything you think Bill should work on?
I think I agree with Brandon on the kind of the jerking movement, but I feel like that was it.
Okay, cool. Good comment. All right. Cool. Well, good job, Bill. I thought that went really well for your first time out. So we'll have to do it again.
Thank you. Thank you, Benjamin.
Yeah. All right, Rasa, you're up. Why don't you go ahead and we'll get you unmuted here. And whoops, I did that. That was my bad. There we go.
Hey,
Okay, so we'll go ahead and just blow a couple notes. We'll just make sure that we've got good sound. And then why don't you, after you do, plan on kind of introducing yourself and telling us what you're going to play today.
okay. Good.
Sounds good. Who are you and what are you playing?
So I'm Raza Broussard and I'm playing The Green Hills by Bert Appermont. Yeah, Bert Appermont. So give it a go.
Yeah, awesome. Congrats. Sounds good, man. Yeah, I heard that last week And like you made some serious improvements on that. Cool. There's some big things that are working for you here. Um, the the breathing, the breathing plan that we kind of developed, that really helped you, and you really stuck a couple things, which is really cool. So I'm really down for that. You know, the other thing that sounded really good today is kind of that middle upper register. There are a couple places where I could tell the transition kind of got in the way just a little bit. But you know, not as many little places like that as there were the other day. So some of that work that we were doing with buzzing and then playing, I think is really helping with making that transition a little bit smoother. And then the air seems to be driving that buzz, that core buzz, even stronger. So I think that's really good. Congrats on that, making that happen. Um, you know, in terms of music, I don't want to take everybody's comments here. I should stop talking. But in terms of musicality, I thought there was some really nice ups and downs in the phrases that really were conducive. And then there were a couple things that I thought kind of disappeared. Now, you know, part of it's Zoom. The audio quality was actually pretty good. Zoom, I don't know how many of us know this, but Zoom really hates the euphonium. The creators of Zoom were like, I want to make it so that you can't actually hear the euphonium on Zoom. So we had to manipulate all these settings to even get it. There's all this kind of feedback stuff that happens, but actually we had a pretty good connection today that sounded pretty good, man. And I got some of the dynamics. I lost some of them, and I don't know if it was because Zoom lost them or because they weren't happening. But I definitely thought that was an improvement over the other day when we were working on this. So congrats, good job. You made it through your first playing in studio class. Anybody have comments for Raza? Brandon?
Yeah. You sound really good, like especially because it's like over Zoom. Your tone sounded really good for it being online. Your finger technique was also like really good on those runs, and everything was like really clean. Like everything was lined up like with your lips and your fingers and the slurs and all that. Something to work on, I guess, would be kind of what Dr. Yates was saying for breathing. Kind of try to play up to the higher notes, like push your air to those, and don't be too scared of them. So whenever you're coming to them, it sounded kind of like you were getting a little timid and you're shying away, and your air would kind of like clench up, and then the note would kind of sort of speak, but it wouldn't. But if you kind of just keep pushing all your air towards that higher note and kind of like think of it like a big like roller coaster, then it'll probably work a little bit better for you.
Okay.
But other than that, everything's good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice, Brandon. Thanks. Bill, you got something?
Yeah, I liked the song. I thought it was a real interesting, some contrasts. It seemed like a very soothing legato, out at the beginning. And then it got into that fast technical section, which was kind of a surprise. And I thought it was really light and accurate is what it seemed to me. And I particularly liked there was like some points where he ascended and it was almost like a trill that he nailed. And so I just liked it a lot. I thought it was a really interesting piece. I would hate to have to try to play it, but he did a great job on it. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a technically demanding piece, the Green Hill, and so I have to outwardly commend Rasa for. Did you pick this or did somebody give it to you? I didn't give it to you, did I?
No, I picked it.
Okay, so you're crazy. No, cool, man. It's really sounding good. Fingers were there today. I agree with everybody's comments, and I agree with Brandon specifically that sometimes it's like you're going for it, everything's going really well, and then you get to those things, those notes that used to be high and now they're not, and your brain's still like 3 ledger lines, no, and so you got to shut your brain down on that. And I know that sounds crazy, but you gotta sometimes it's like going off the high diving board or I don't know, skydiving or something. Sometimes you just gotta shut your brain down and not let it have its visceral reaction to these things. Good job today. That sounded really good.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow for sure. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Brandon, you're up. Did we talk about this or did I just put you on the schedule for today? Do you have something to play?
Yeah, I was gonna do the finger sonata.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. Working on some alto.
Trying to.
There is no try, there's only do.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Okay. Ready?
Yeah, cool. Sounds good, man. Um, we were just working on this last week, and I just think your alto trombone setup, so your corners, your chops, kind of your way of thinking about alto trombones exploding. Um, and I know sometimes it's kind of hard to hear it happening while it's happening. But that would be kind of my take on things. Like just even just your tone today, it had a lot more characteristic altoness to it. I really like kind of that fanfare idea that we kind of developed last week at this for the start. I thought it had a lot more of that flourish flare sound. Um, I still think there's a few places when you could maybe think about just letting go a little bit more and just letting it like it's almost like it's just a little on the reserve side. And I don't know. It's hard to describe it, but sometimes again, it's a little bit like what I'm talking about to Rasa with the higher stuff. You just have to kind of let go.
I got you.
I don't. I should stop using the skydiving analogy because I've never leapt out of a plane, so I probably shouldn't use this. But I'm gonna use it again. It's kind of like when you have to step out of the plane, right? You just gotta let go, and know that there's some things that you're not in control of. And yeah, it's not super fun when those things that you're not always in control of don't go the way you want them to go. But yeah, just kind of letting go a little bit. Crazy, right? Yep. Trombone is just like leaping out of a plane. Okay. No, but I thought you did a really good job. And I think that opening is not easy. And so taking that on and going for it like that is a great summer project. So I want to commend you for that as well. I think that's really great. Anybody else have any comments for Brandon? Charlie, you want to talk about the alto trombone and all the things you know about the alto? No? Okay. Bill?
I have a question about the alto trombone. If I didn't have the video, there were points there where I would have thought it was, maybe a trumpet that he was playing. It sounded very much like definitely the fanfare type song, and definitely technical. But is that kind of like the range where the alto trombone is supposed to be fitting in when it's used in orchestras and places, or is it supposed to be like an in between or something? I'm not sure the role of the alto trombone.
Do you want to answer that, Brandon? Do you want to get into those semantics?
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of like it kind of functions both ways. it will fit in between trumpet and trombone, but it can function as like, I guess, like a fourth trumpet in the orchestra as well.
Yeah. So like this sonata, I was actually supposed to do some more research on this, wasn't I, Brandon? But there's not a lot of information about what this was actually written for. So we think alto trombone is appropriate, but we don't really know. And it comes from a time period where composers didn't write all over their music what the instrument was that they heard in their head for the music. It was more like, here's some music, and if you can play it, go for it. But for sure, during this time period, the alto trombone was really kind of considered the bridge between trumpet and trombone in the orchestra setting. So the way Beethoven was writing for the alto trombone was that it was really not, it was kind of its own separate instrument. And it was kind of considered that for a long time. And then at the end of the Romantic period, at the turn of the 20th century, we kind of started thinking about it more as being part of the trombone family and less of a specialist instrument. And that's kind of gone away a little bit. When I was coming up, people who played alto trombone, they played what were called large bore alto trombones. They were kind of big alto trombones. They sounded a lot more like a tenor trombone. They played on big mouthpieces. Like my teacher, I don't know what he does anymore, but my teacher, when I first learned the alto trombone, he just played his same tenor mouthpiece on the alto, which just sounds insane to me. I can't believe he did that and could do it all day. But that was kind of a thought process, and we've kind of switched that over to being a little bit more like this idea of it being a bridge to the trumpet. When you play anything Beethoven did for alto, like Symphony 5 or Symphony 9, but what's the other big excerpt, Brandon? I'm forgetting all of a sudden. 3? Yeah. I don't know. I think it's 3. There's these places where you're playing in unison with the trumpets. So it's definitely considered of that sound. So that's a little historical perspective. Does that help, Bill?
Yes, I just think it's an interesting instrument. I've seen it a couple of times on YouTube, where there's maybe a group of 6 or so trombones playing in a kind of a trombone choir, where one guy's playing the alto. And I saw one that Elliot Chasnov did, where he was kind of like the lead melody playing the alto trombone, and there was like 5 or so other guys that were playing a mix of trombones. So it's kind of interesting. I had not had any exposure to that instrument prior to about 6 months or a year ago.
Yeah. It's quickly, it's kind of an interesting thing too. But my grad school teacher at Iowa, Dave Gear, he never touched an alto trombone in his life. He's never bought one. He's never played one. He just played all those excerpts on tenor. And so that just kind of shows you, like, there's been this pretty big switch since the 80s, which isn't that long ago to me, but to my students, it probably seems like forever ago. But there's been a pretty big switch in kind of our mindset on how we do that. And so it's almost kind of like a new thing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily stylish. It's just new and a new way of thinking about it. I think it's kind of stuck and will continue to stick. I mean, all the major orchestras use alto trombone now regularly. When in the 80s and 90s, it was rare that you actually saw somebody play an alto. In fact, Joe Alessi was playing all those alto parts just on his large bore tenor. He wouldn't even switch out horns, and that was kind of the way things were. And now, even if you don't play alto, you switch to a small bore horn, that sort of thing. So
I went to an area of North Carolina called Old Salem, where it was mid 1700s, 1800s, or whatever, and they had part of the museum. They had a collection of the musical instruments that they played, and they had some really small trombones, which is they looked like toys or something you would use like for a party or kind of a goof kind of thing, but they were they were, you know, the main thing that they played, I guess, back then. They had, you know, 2 or 3 of them that were even smaller than that alto horn that y'all have been using. So kind of interesting. So
That's it would have been pretty, even at then, to have Renaissance trombones that would have been in a consort. So kind of like the recital that I gave last year, with a tenor, alto, soprano, possibly something like that. Yeah, there's definitely out there. There's also there's some debate about this, but there's a soprano trombone, but there's also the slide trumpet, and it kind of depends on what key they're in and what they're meant for. But there's kind of that crossover as well. So pretty cool. Any other comments for Brandon? Hey, Raza.
Hey, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, so I really don't have any bad comments. I feel like everything was good, like the slide movement and everything, and your articulation was really good. So, yeah.
We'll always take positive comments, right? Cool. Yeah. All right. That should work out okay. Brandon, do you have anything you want to say about your performance?
Oh man. Over here.
You can say good things too.
Let's see. It was a big improvement over last week when you last heard it. I feel the runs were more accurate. I felt like tuning wise, and the style was a bit closer to what I'm going for. I think some improvement would be more dynamics in the piece. There's a little bit written, but I feel like there could be more done with it. And I'm still working out that trill in the first line. It's kind of I've listened to a few recordings of it, and I kind of still don't get the style for it. I guess since this piece there's no real documentation on it, it's kind of hard to like decide what to do with some of these things. That's kind of it.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. I think those are all good things to be aware of and thinking of. And like I said last week, I don't have any great answers on the trill. Everybody does it a little differently. And you know, the real question would be, could we get one of these musicologists to help us out with that? You know, what's surprising about this is it's pretty common alto trombone sonata that most of us have played at some point, but you're right. There's just not a lot of documentation. There's not a lot of consensus on what's best. So that's where we are. We can get really musicological about it if need be. I would say, you know, what you're doing now is what you're going for is good, and it's appropriate. But I think, like I told you last week, the question is, can we really figure out what we should be doing? And that's always tricky. So cool. Well, thanks for playing. I appreciate it. Sounded good. So just going to go to my screen sharing real quick. So for next week, like I said, I've got Jude playing. And then if anybody else wants to play again before we kind of take a break until the July session, I'd be happy to have any of you join us. That'd be fine. And I'll be checking in with people to see what all's going on. But otherwise, I'm going to definitely do a little bit of speaking about some diagnostic tools, like I mentioned. And all that's coming from a presentation that I put together for the International Trombone Festival, which the live event was canceled for this year, but I'll be actually giving that the first week of July over their streaming system, and I'll be sending out some information about that in case you want to join me, or in case you want to see some of the other things that are going on. There are some free events and some paid events for that, so that's coming up in July. And I think that's all I've got today. So really appreciate it. Everybody who played sounds good. Really appreciate all the comments. It's good to see everybody. I'll got a couple of you that I'm going to see tomorrow, and then I'll see everybody next week. Looking forward to it. See you soon.